Welcome to
The Layered Tribe,
where we're unmasking blend reality. Happy Wednesday, y'all. We're back at it. Blissfully Blended BS Book Review continuing by Rebecca Eckler. Such good stuff. I really love this book. This is going to be kind of a high bar for all the other books that I'm going to review. I'm a little scared. We're going to talk about two things today, level of effort and escaping. Rebecca writes in the book about how when her husband's kids came over, how he became basically this like phenomenal chef to make whatever they wanted. But when his kids weren't there, it was just kind of like bare minimum, like care less. And she was talking about how this difference is there, this level of effort difference. And she's talking about how this is another one of those things that it exists. Nobody really talks about it, but it's one of these hidden frustrations because I'm going to use that old school saying, like, what am I, chopped liver type thing, which is the feeling. It's the feeling that's there. It's like of unimportance. And then it's like, oh, the kids are coming over. Let's roll out the red carpet. Let's do all the things and go all the places and eat all the food because the kids who aren't even seeming grateful for the most part are coming over. Let's make it amazing. And it's like, okay, they're just coming over like they always, like they're gonna come back next week, right? Or in 2 weeks or whatever. So the people who are in the house are kind of like, okay, so we're gonna do all this, and when they leave, we're going back to bare minimum. And then she talked about how she was talking to a friend of hers, and it was the same thing. Her friend told the story of how her husband asked the kids if they wanted an omelet, or asked the kids what they wanted to eat, and they said they wanted an omelet. And she was like, we didn't even have stuff for omelets. So he actually had to leave the house, go pick up the stuff, and then come back and make an omelet. She's like, he's either never made an omelet or made just a cheese omelet. I think she said he never made an omelet, because my story is my husband has only made cheese omelets and talks about making fancy dancy omelets. And I don't know who he's made these fancy dancy omelets for, but it hasn't been me, and we've been together for 10 years. And so when I read this story, I ran out to the garage and stopped him in the middle of his woodworking thing. And I'm like, look, we're not the only people who have discussions about omelets, because there's a whole story in here about a man who made his kids omelets and wouldn't do it for his wife and the kids in the house. He was not amused by my sharing of this story. To this day, he still has not made an omelet other than a cheese omelet. That's all. But it seems like there is a disparity of the level of effort when it comes to bio and when it comes to the layered tribe. Sometimes it's not a big deal, but then sometimes it is. And there's no rhyme or rule of when it is and when it isn't. And it can be over something small like omelets, or it can be over vacation trips. Or the thing is, though, is that the disparities have to be addressed with each and every individual person in the tribe differently based on personality. It can get pretty tricky. And another thing when it comes to level of effort is it also depends on all the relationships too. That can also get misconstrued. And so I think one of the things is to keep the communication open, have safe spaces. I think that's another thing that's really undervalued and not talked about, is having safe spaces to talk about this with bio parent, bio children, where the feelings can be shared and acknowledged. That is one thing that I really love that Rebecca did with her daughter, is that she gave her ways to share her feelings and was safe. And she knew that if her daughter was feeling a certain way, she knew what action to do to take it, to give that extra, hey, I love you, that moment of connection. But then also to help with the situation with the husband. I think when we're dealing with bio kids versus our partner/spouse's kids, we don't understand the emotional realm of them. An example being, I was working and we had a Christmas little white elephant, and the Christmas white elephant, I had some leftover things. Additionally, I do a Hallmark party with my sisters. I had some leftover items from that. My husband's kids come over, and there's one daughter that I would say out of his 5 kids, I'm probably, I would say, closest to friends with only one kid, and it's his one daughter. So his other kids left, and it was just his sons and this one daughter, and I was like, hey, I don't have official Christmas gifts to give y'all, but I have this stuff that's left over from parties and stuff. Let me give it to you. To me, this isn't a big deal because it's just some leftover stuff I had, and it was like makeup and candles and whatever. Probably totaling $20 or something. Anyway, another of his daughters finds out, and it just becomes a thing because her feelings were hurt, realistically. Because I chose to give them to, but I don't even really know that daughter that well. And so it just became this thing. From my point of view, it wasn't a big deal. From my husband's point of view, he's like, I would have never given one over the other because of how he and his ex raised their kids and everything was equal all the time. Although the quality bar, since that was probably our first or second Christmas season that happened, the bar in the last 5 years has started changing as more grandkids have come into the picture and jobs and families and locations have changed. So it's shifting, but oh so slightly. Then my infraction was committed. I did it not even thinking. Fast forward 2 or 3 years, I had some stuff I was getting rid of, and I asked my husband that, should I offer this to blank kid? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay. So if I had asked in year 2, I could have sidestepped that, but I didn't think it was a big deal. Going back to the level of effort, there are things that we're going to think are big deals and are not big deals that other people will think are big deals or are not big deals. So that's kind of where the communication has to be. And I guess also not being offended when it's brought to you. It takes emotional maturity to do this well and right. And it's an emotional maturity that we had to learn. It's not natural. It's just not natural. Over time, we've been less offended, like, okay, I can see that point of view from day one. And I guess in time, it will get even better, maybe. I don't know. So, but it definitely takes a level of maturity. But effort isn't always just about cooking or events or something. Sometimes it's just the level of effort it is to even be in the relationship. And Rebecca mentioned that there was a couple that she knew that was spending $13,000 a year on counseling. She said, which I thought was kind of funny. I like this quote too. Staying in a successful blended family, it turns out, can also be freaking expensive. Yes. Because the level of effort, again, to even make this thing work is so huge. Family Life puts out a statistic that 70% of second marriages fail, which is up from the 54, I think, or 56%, depending on what you look at, first marriages that fail because the level of effort is extreme. So not only are you having to manage the level of effort of just maneuvering all the nuances of all the personalities in play, you're also having to just put that much more effort into the marriage or partnership to just survive, just to make it work. Level of effort, I know that we have done. Family Life does a marriage ministry, and then they also do a blended family ministry. Both of them I cannot recommend high enough. The marriage one just focuses on marriage, and it's interesting because a lot of times, or not a lot of times, sometimes my husband will be like, this isn't a blended family issue, Jenny, this is just regular marriage. I'm like, well, I don't know that because I wasn't married before, and now we're in this blended family. Now just like, this is all it is. But it keeps you on course on marriage. And I was really surprised. We went to this one marriage retreat, and there was a couple there that had been married. I think they were in their 80s, and they had been married like, I don't know, 100 years. And they stood up and they said the reason why they go is because they still learn things about each other. And I'm like, what? How do you... Where is the comfort zone in life, y'all? Where is the comfort in life where you can just coast? Apparently, nowhere. But apparently, everything worth it is work. Anything worth anything in life is work. The level of effort from your partnership, from your spouse, from your layered tribe, from your children is work. And so you're going to work hard. You're going to work hard. Another thing that she talks about is escaping the whole situation and running away. When he pulled in with the U-Haul and she realized how much stuff was coming into her house, he moved in with her. She was like, oh my goodness. and she went to a coffee shop. But that seems to be a thing. She talks about even escaping within the home of just going in a room and closing the door and pretending like it's just you and Netflix and nothing else. And that is something that is a reality. And again, I am so appreciative of Rebecca Eckler for writing this book and actually sitting down and putting into words that feeling of just like wanting to be at peace just by yourself because of the chaos. It's just like, oh my gosh, I just want a break. And I resonated with that. I remember it was our first holiday season, and I realized if I cleaned all the way up to the time the kids, my husband's kids, drove in, and then went and got dressed, like it was like, okay, I have a little bit of a reprieve. And he was upset because he's like, "What are you doing, hiding out in the bedroom?" I'm like, "I'm not hiding out. I'm getting dressed." But it's just kind of like, let's just let them have their time. Let them have a moment. Let them be before I come in and just make things awkward. And that's a thing. That's a thing. Now, as we did go through the couples counseling or therapy or whatever, and they were like, okay, but if you're not there and you're not present, you're not part of making new, it's not going to get better. Running away, hiding away doesn't make it better. Get out there, get in the conversations. But that's also why on Fridays I'm doing family activity Fridays, because I realize that if you're not making things happen, if you're not working to get to know everybody, to get to build your own relationships, it's just not going to happen. And the goal isn't to be one big happy family, but the goal is to build relationships that thrive and are beneficial and are happy. And I think that is what we can strive for as part of a Laird Tribe. Thanks for listening, and that's it for today. Don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. We welcome comments, testimonials, thoughts, questions, or rants, either by submitting a form on our website or leaving a voicemail at 281-946-9886. Today's Modern Woman Wednesday. What are we dealing with today, ladies? Today we're talking about work-life balance. And it doesn't matter if you have kids or not. Work-life balance is a thing. I remember before I had my daughter, I was working with a friend of mine, and we worked on several projects together. The projects were a couple of times over the weekends. And I distinctly remember us talking about the people who had kids who had to leave to go get their kids, and how we like totally were like, ah. And but we worked over the weekends, and that's actually how we became friends. Is because we had the same work ethic, and we hit the projects hard, and came in strong with project completion, and that's how we started our friendship. I was old enough. I was 32 when I had my daughter, and I was old enough to see corporate world before kids, not having kids, and after having kids. And you cannot have work-life balance even if you don't have kids. I think it's actually easier because you don't have as much to do, because it's like, okay, well, I can just dive into work and career, which is why some people choose to have careers over families. But when you do have a family, it is a little harder. And there's been a ton of articles and debates and talks and everything about work life. I'm not going to deep dive into that for our little 5-minute segment. And even when it comes to work life, it is very hard to be intentional and prioritize life. See, I wanted to even say the word work. It's hard to prioritize life over work because we have been conditioned that work and job is the end all be all. My husband told me about a conversation he had with a young father the other day, and he has a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old said, "Daddy, can you stay home from work?" And he said, "No, because Daddy going to work is how you have all the toys that you have." And the 3-year-old told him, "Well, let's take the toys back." And the reality is Our kids don't need everything we think they need. They need us as parents. And also, if you don't have kids, life is greater than 8 to 5. Life is greater than a paycheck, which is why I admire the RVers, the van lifers, the boaters, the anybody who steps outside, which I think we have a big push towards the homesteaders, because this is the upset that we have in our soul, so to speak, is prioritizing work over life. And so I challenge you to see how this week where you can like stop the clock and say, okay, I just saw a video or Trevor Noah talked about his time during the Daily Show, and he was talking about how he was like always told his friends, no, I got a work thing. He's like, what would it be? He's like, now I'm choosing to say no work thing. I have a thing with my friend. I think that's just something that we should just be intentional of, especially as we enter in the holidays or season, as we're going, pulling. Be intentional. Stop and think. Where's the true priority here? And prioritize yourself too. You can't keep giving to everybody and not taking time to take a step back and take a breather for yourself. Take a breather for yourself. Chill. For at least 10 minutes a day. If not more. If you can do more, do more. If you can do a day a week, do a day a week. But take a breather. Happy Wednesday. Go forth, you strong woman, you. This is Jenny, and I wish you strength, grace, and wisdom as you continue this tricky journey with your modern layered tribe. Bye.